Welcome to the table. My name is Max, and if you're looking to start a board game collection or are just curious of what some of my favorite starter games are, you've come to the right place. I'm going to walk you through 5 games that I recommend you start a board game collection with. Most of these are going to be on the lighter side, moving up into a little bit more strategy, but let's jump right into this. I'm going to order this list by perceived weight, not by my favorites or best recommendations, and I haven't looked up the BGG weight of these. Weight means that the game is necessarily easier to understand and play or harder to understand. The heavier a game is, the more difficult it is to learn how to play. The lighter a game is, the easier it is to table, introduce to other people, teach them how to play, and get right in. Again, I have not looked at the weights on these on BGG. I'm just going what my perceived weight is based off of me playing these games. So, 5 games, jumping right in. We're going to start off with what I perceive to be the lowest of these 5. I could be wrong. I don't know. King Domino. This is by Blue Orange Games. This is a extremely well-loved and well-regarded game. It's received many awards. Very light, very easy, very simple. It's a 2 to 4 player game. You're going to be drafting different tiles to form a kingdom. You're going to start around your castle and branch out into a 5x5 square, or if you're playing the 2-player variant, a 7x7 square. And in doing so, like normal dominoes, you have to make something connect to something that is equal to, basically. So a water has to touch a water, a forest has to touch a forest, so on and so forth. So this is really easy to teach to people because most people have played dominoes of some way, shape, or form in which you connect the 2 to the 2, the blank to the blank, the 12 to the 12, so on and so forth. It's a drafting game in which you're looking at your own board, you're looking at the 4 options available, and you're deciding, hey, what's going to fit my board best? Or, if you're like some people, you're deciding, hey, what pick will really screw up my friends' plans and mess them up? And that is called hate drafting. Welcome to the wonderful world of drafting games. This is King Domino. This is actually a game that was one of the first that I bought, probably a collection starter for me, but more recently I've played it a lot. Probably more than I ever have before. We've been playing on BGA with Foster the Meeple, and it's been a good time. It's really made me appreciate this game more than I initially had. I really, really like this game. It's such a simple, easy game, but it's fast, it's thinky, it's obviously got luck based in it, which is fine. I don't mind that at all, especially for these like starter level games. That's a good thing to kind of keep the playing field a little bit level. I love King Domino. Yeah, that's number 1 collection starter in my opinion. King Domino, we're going to set that off to the side. Next on the list, we have Cartographers. This is a role-player tale by Thunderworks Games. This is a flip and write, or better known as roll and writes, just kind of mushed into that same category, even though there's no dice and no rolling in this game. You are a cartographer, and you're attempting to beat the other cartographers in creating the best map. You score points by different objectives, and you score negative points by not being able to stop the enemies and monsters from taking over your map. And essentially, you're just flipping over cards, deciding which shape and color to place on your map, and you're kind of Tetrising it a little bit, and following those objectives to try and score you the most points. Wonderful game, and I think it appeals to a lot of different people. It's you play at the same time, so there's no downtime really. There's no turns unless you're playing with some very artistic people that like to make theirs look beautiful. Then it's very artistic. People can take as much or as little time to play Cartographers as they want. They can sit there and just color in the square, just a red square, whatever, or they can draw a beautiful landscape if they so choose. It's a game that really allows for you to do kind of whatever you want and just have a conversation while you're playing. No real competitiveness. There is the aspect of the monsters, which can get a little sticky. Some people choose to leave those out. I like them, but just an option. Another one that I think is an absolute great starter game, and both of these are really cheap too. I think this is next on my perceived weight, though I could be wrong on that. We're moving up a little bit. We're getting a little heavier here. This is Clank, a deck building adventure. So if you've never heard of deck building, what that word means is you and your opponents start off with the same or very similar hands of cards with different abilities on them. And throughout the game, you're going to be adding cards to your hand and removing cards from your hand to basically make your deck unique and different from the other players at the table. And you're attempting to optimize that deck for whatever it is you're going for, whatever strategy. In Clank, you're delving into a dungeon, looking for treasure, and trying to dodge the dragon and escape before you die. If you die under the dungeon, you're dead. You're donezo. Your score doesn't even count. You weren't able to be brought out. If you make it above the first level, you can be brought out, and if you make it all the way out, you score additional points. This is probably the most thematic of the few that I've got so far, which is another big thing for me. If you know me, you know I love thematic games. I like the fantasy dungeon delving kind of push your luck aspect too. That's another word that can be tossed around in board games. Push your luck is basically just trying to read the situation and say, should I stop? Should I leave? Should I get that 5-point artifact and try and race to the top? Or should I go really deep into this dungeon and try and get the 30-point artifact, but risk not making it out at all? Clank's an excellent game, one I have not played in a while actually, but this was probably one of the first few that I introduced myself with as well, and I certainly recommend it. I think it's an excellent game. I don't think you can go wrong with Clank. There's also Clank in Space, if the fantasy theme doesn't click for you and you prefer that kind of sci-fi thing, that works great too. I've not played Clank in Space, but I've heard amazing things about both. So that is Clank. Now, again, perceived weight, I don't know. This is a very, very, very popular game. Won many of awards. I don't think it's going to surprise anyone that it's here on this list today, but this is Stonemaier Games and Elizabeth Hargrave's Wingspan. This is a engine builder kind of game, and what that means is you're putting pieces together to do things the way you want them to do, and that's a terrible explanation, absolutely awful explanation. Don't ever come to me asking for terminology explanations. That's not what I'm here for. But you're putting cards on your tableau, on your table of cards, and essentially they're going to activate from right to left when you're able to activate them. And so they can say, gain a wheat, and then something else can say, if you have a wheat, gain an egg. So there's like a bit of an engine builder there, right? That second card wouldn't have worked without that first card. So that's kind of what Wingspan is. I do really want to play this with the expansions, both the European and the Oceanic expansion. I've heard they changed the game a lot and for the better. And one big thing about Wingspan for me is theme is good. Theme is not amazing. I'm not a huge bird person. I know my mom actively dislikes birds, but still likes Wingspan. But it can be just the right theme for some people. And then the biggest thing for me is the component quality. I find that when introducing other people, or when I was initially into the hobby getting myself excited about games, what do I mean? I'm still excited about component quality. That really having something that stands out as beautiful, legitimately beautiful, and like fun to play with because the pieces and the art and components they just feel good. They look good. They feel good. I think that it goes a long way into introducing people to the hobby and making sure you get your miles worth out of your games. So for a collection starter, I think it's a really solid pick. This is Wingspan. Now, for the last game, this is not a heavy game. Again, this is all perceived weight. The one thing with this one is I've struggled teaching it more than I've struggled teaching any of these four. I don't necessarily think it's heavier. Maybe it is. I'll look up the BGG weight after. Probably should have done it prior to, but this game is Quacks of Quedlinburg. Quacks of Quedlinburg is by North Star Games, another big award winner. Most of these have won awards at this point in time. These games are not unknowns. I'm not showing you the next hotness, the newest thing. These games are all already so well loved, but if you're looking for an opinion of mine, of what the best games to start a collection with, I think that these tick all the boxes. Quacks of Quedlinburg is a bag builder and a push your luck game. I've already kind of touched on push your luck with Clank, but the bag builder aspect is you're going to be taking ingredients and throwing them into your pot, basically, or into your bag of ingredients, we'll say that, and throughout the game you're going to be drawing them out of your bag and placing them in your pot, and you want to make the best potion. I can't even think of the proper term right now. But if you throw in the wrong ingredients, you bust and you lose a certain amount of points. And it's all played asynchronously. I mean, it's all played together at the same time. There are no real turns. You're all playing all at the same time, drawing ingredients out of your bag, tossing them into your pot, and hoping you don't explode. You're buying ingredients, so you're building your bag. Hi, Granger. You're building your bag with select ingredients from the board. So that's where the bag builder aspect comes from. But because it's a bag and you're just drawing things out, it is quite lucky, and that's the push your luck example. For example, when you hit 7 or more, or when you hit 8 white chips, you bust, then you explode. But I may have 7 and know that only 2 of my 5 chips in the bag are white. So if I draw 2 of those 5, I'm out. But if I draw the other 3, or 1 of them and then decide to quit, or 2 of them and then decide to quit, I can move farther along that track and get more points. But it's just a decision you have to make. You try and analyze the situation. So These are my 5 best games, well, best starter collection starter games that I recommend you try out. I think you've got the real easy drafting game here that's super simple to teach people because it's dominoes. You've got but better. You've got cartographers here, which appeals to the artistic people, and there's also just something that you can play and talk while you're playing it because there's no real competitiveness except for the monsters. Then you've got quacks, which is that real-time aspect, kind of like cartographers, but a little more meat to it. And it's that push your luck bag builder, which is a totally different type of game than any I've mentioned so far. Then you've got Wingspan, which is just that absolutely gorgeous production quality, and it's the engine builder, probably the most strategic of these all, I think, because there's not as much luck. There certainly still is based on roll of the die and the feed, food, whatever it may be, but probably the most strategical of them and just gorgeous to look at. And then you've got Clank, a little bit of that fantasy. So many people love fantasy, myself included, and deck builder is just a big thing that people are gonna want to try. And if you don't have that in your collection starter, I think you're really missing out. It's just one of those mechanisms that you need. I think you need drafting, bam. I think you need deck builder, bam. I think you need roll and write, maybe that's debatable, but to me, cartographers is definitely a hit. I think you need push your luck. You've got both of these. And you've got your standard, your more standard Euro-ish game over here, where you're kind of your multiplayer solitaire. You're not really messing with anybody else other than drafting the food, but that's pretty minuscule. And it's just kind of your bog standard multiplayer solitaire Euro-ish game, but not super dry. It has a theme that actually works, and it's gorgeous to look at. So, what do you think? What are your 5 favorite collection starter games? What do you recommend someone goes out and buy for their first 5 board games ever? If you're seeing this and you don't own board games, or you only own a few from 20 years ago, what do you think about these? Did any of these really catch your eye, or did they not do the trick for you? Let me know if I made a good list or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. We'll see you then.